Hey, thanks for joining me. I'm glad you're here. I'm Jerrel. I make games for a living. This is a 360 video, so you can use your smart device to look around. You can touch the screen, drag it around, go and give it a try. You don't have to keep looking at me. You can look around wherever you want. So I wanted to share with you just a short devlog about what I've been working on. So I have a number of games that I'm developing simultaneously, and I hope to have them finished and launched pretty close to each other in a pretty steady timeline here. I'm finishing up work on Grandpa's Playing Banjo in Space, and I also have Top 15 Caving Disasters, which is going to be a nightmare. And I'm working on the multiplayer component for Goo Buddies. I'm also working on the next Silver Falls games. There is a game that I started working on in 2016, and it is or was a JRPG, but I wasn't able to finish it. The reason being was it was just outside of my ability level at the time in 2016, and I've been working hard, pushing myself to keep improving as a developer, as a writer, a musician, an artist, a conceptualizer, and a programmer. And it's important to keep pushing yourself to improve, to take your abilities as far as they can go. And back in 2016, I was hitting the ceiling of what I could achieve, and I wanted this game to be a horror JRPG for the 3DS. It turned out the development software that I was using for the 3DS was very broken, and it was just had non-stop constant memory leaks, and I kept waiting and hoping that it would get fixed, but it wasn't really fixable. That affected my work on the 3DS through the entirety of the lifespan of the console. So I'm at a point now where I now can start bringing this horror JRPG to you. I want to tell you about that today. And the game that I was working on for the 3DS is called Deadman's Manor. And the idea, the lore about this, it's set in a world that is kind of inspired by Victorian era, the mid to late 1800s, and I did a lot of research for that. And at the time, I didn't know anything about the Victorian era. But when doing research for this game, it really instilled in me just this fiery passion and adoration for the Victorian era. And now I'm just super, super passionate about it. I love learning about it and hearing about it. And so the world of Deadman's Curse, is really inspired by the Victorian era. And the whole hook of Deadman's Curse, this world, is that just seemingly randomly, it's really unpredictable, one person in the world will be afflicted with the Deadman's Curse. And what the Deadman's Curse does to a person is that person is not able to die. If they ever reach a point where it seems like they're going to die, they just revive. But that attracts monsters, these horrible mutated creatures, and they'll attack, whoever's afflicted with a Deadman's Curse because they can't die, they're constantly getting attacked. But it tends to invite death, and people around the dead man tend to get killed. And the person who has been afflicted with a Deadman's Curse has a special ability where when someone dies, a memento will manifest itself. It's part of the person's soul that represents who they were. In gameplay terms, in the mechanics of it, it'll represent, that character's strengths, one of their stats that was really their best stat, or a trait, or a magic spell, an ability that they can use in combat. And what the dead man can do is the dead man can harvest that memento, and the dead man can give that memento to themselves, and they can gain power from the other person. So a stat increase, or a new skill, or a new trait, something like that, But what the dead man can also do is the dead man can just give that memento to someone else. And so it's not just for yourself. And so to me, this opens up a lot of storytelling possibilities for, people driven by greed who may be trying to amass power, And I think if people enjoy this concept, if they enjoy the storytelling in the world of Deadman's Curse, and people want me to make this a series where I can explore many different ideas, it will be interesting to explore who is afflicted with a Deadman's Curse, what is the player's relationship to that person, and what will that person do with that power? Is that person going to amass greed, power out of greed, or what I imagine is that the story outcome would be quite different based on how the player uses that power. It's the player that becomes the dead man, and you can either build up your party members, or build up yourself. How many people are you going to harvest? And when your party members die, then they leave behind the memento. Will you take that memento? You know, and so to me, that's an interesting concept. So I've been working on a game framework, and I've been planning on this for years and years and years, and I've always wanted to do this, you know. And if you think about arcade light gun shooters, they are a sort of an offshoot of first-person shooters. You know, in a console first-person shooter, you walk around and you shoot the bad guys, right? But an arcade shooter is that, except it's on rails. And so my idea was to create a framework that was basically the arcade version of a JRPG, where it was on rails, it was constantly moving, and you had limited time to do things, you know. And so I've been working on that game framework, and I would like the first game in the Deadman's Curse game series to be Deadman's Canyon, and I've been working on that. And in that, you play as the Deadman, and you are trapped in a canyon during a terrible storm, and the canyon is flooding, and you're basically going to drown. So you're trying to race your way out of the canyon, but you're racing against time because the canyon is flooding. You have monsters attacking you, and there's going to be a big, you know, the big final boss is this big, horrible, mutated creature at the end of the canyon. And will you be strong enough? By the time you get to the end of the canyon, will you be strong enough to defeat that boss? Will you have party members, you know, with you? And the game invites multiple playthroughs, and there will be alternate game modes as well, where you're not just playing through the canyon. It'll be different environments, and there will be an infinite mode to see how long you can last before, you know, that's the end of the road for your playthrough. So I hope you're looking forward to exploring this world with me, the world of Deadman's Curse. You know, I one day would like to do Deadman's Manor, which is what I was going to make for the 3DS. But something like that at this point would take a lot of time. And I constantly need to get new games published because that's how I pay my bills. So I got to keep working on games. So it means for the time being, I have to make games that are just a bit smaller because I'll be able to produce them in less time. And I just want very strong experiences, just a bunch of fun, but smaller games that I can produce in a shorter time period, because games, they take a lot of effort and work, and they take time. And so that's why I want to keep pushing myself to keep improving, because I want to be able to make better games faster. And you can do that by grinding for EXP, grinding for SP, and then leveling up your stats. So I hope you're looking forward to Deadman's Canyon, and I hope people enjoy it so I can further explore this series of the Deadman's Curse. Take care of yourselves. Be well. I'll see you around.